All right, welcome back, guys. Another Bleacher Report live. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. You can follow me at JK Bogan on all social media. And today we're going to be talking about the Rams and Lions game and what to expect in this game because this won't be a full-on breakdown of the game, but more so, what can you expect to happen in said game? Now, I want to talk about this because you know, the over under is 51 and a half. A lot of people think this is going to be an absolute shootout. I do think, and I've said this before, I'll say this again. I do think the Rams defense is getting underrated. And here's why I think that. First off, they are top 5 in the league in completion percentage allowed. So while I hear a lot of the time the secondary is getting burned, the secondary always gets burned, corners getting burned left and right, that's not necessarily true. They're actually doing a damn good job. There's been a few of those lapses, but they didn't give up any of those against the 49ers last week. So we'll see if they figure that out. But let's just dive into it. What can you expect from the Rams and the Lions? We'll start off with the Lions here. What can you expect from Jared Goff? Well, Jared Goff is a little bit of an interesting piece here because Sean McVay knows everything about Jared Goff. I know a lot of people want to say that Jared Goff on the Lions is way different than Jared Goff on the Rams. And if you're talking about the Rams in 2020 and maybe 2019 and 2016, absolutely, I might agree with that. Definitely 2016, I'd agree with it. But 2017 and 18, Jared Goff, I think, was at his best. And I think right now he's kind of matching that. I don't feel like he looks that much different. But when you watch him play, this is somebody when he's on, but when he's off, he is wicked off. And we've seen that go back to Thanksgiving game, in front of national audience, the Packers just consistently putting pressure on him. I think the thing with Jared Goff that would scare me if I'm a Lions fan, it would make me happy if I'm a Rams fan, is that when you watch Jared Goff play, the thing that really stands out is that he is he is likely going to lose the ball if he gets hit hard enough. Not a lot of quarterbacks in the league fumble on the level of him. When he gets hit hard, he is susceptible to giving the ball up. And I think this is going to be a game where you're going to need to see some turnovers. The Rams don't put together a ton of turnovers. They don't take the ball away a ton. The Lions do. So if they do that against Stafford in this game, the Rams are going to have to match it. So I look at Jared Goff. I'm like, if you give him time, he can, tear this defense apart, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, if he has time. However, with the way the defensive line is playing lately and the pressure they've been able to put, and by the way, they are winning in defensive line win rate. They are number 1 in the league. So they're winning. The way they're putting pressure on teams, I wouldn't be surprised if this really good offensive line struggles against the Rams. I wouldn't be surprised if this really good offensive line struggles and it leads to Jared Goff not having a pocket to step into. And now you get Jared Goff on the outside and he's running to the sideline trying to make a play. And you got Byron Young, Mr. 4-4 speed, chasing him down. So I look at that and I'm thinking that could be a problem for the Lions. Another thing with Jared Goff is that he's not Matthew Stafford. He's not going to have any of those no-look passes. He's not going through 5 different reads. He is a guy that wants to stick to that first read. He wants to take the comfortable approach. Because of that, the comfortable approach and the right approach maybe in his mind might not be the right approach because you have a head coach in Sean McVay. And keep in mind a defensive coordinator in Raheem Morris that faced him 2 years ago and picked him off twice in that game. The game actually ended. Goff and the Lions were driving down the field to potentially make it a game, and Jalen Ramsey picked him off in the end zone. So that's how that ended. So I'm looking at this game thinking, if Jared Goff is going to try those things, those tendencies are out there. It's on tape. And, regardless of the tape, Sean McVay knows those tendencies. So that's a big thing there. Not having Sam Laporta, who I don't think is going to play this Sunday. I know it is kind of they kind of have to say that he has an outside shot of playing to just show, okay, we did everything we could. But I just can't see Sam Laporta playing with a hyperextended knee, a whatever he had, a bone bruise and a sprained MCL or whatever. I just can't see him playing on that. Jamison Williams, who missed last week, will be good to go. And that's going to be a player to look out for. So, I think I can expect in this game, I think Jared Goff is going to play well, but I think there's going to be a couple of those plays that kind of bring you back down to earth. And remember that this is why the Rams moved on from Jared Goff and went for Matthew Stafford, because he is susceptible to losing the ball. I do think we'll get a strip sack in this game. I think you can expect that. I think the way Byron Young plays, that speed off the edge is going to be a problem for Goff. He's been getting the ball out quicker this year, but even still, there are those moments. And I think it just kind of goes to show you everyone in the NFL can play at a high level if given the opportunity, but it's the great ones that play consistently at a high level. And we've seen Goff play very well, but we've also seen Goff go into trances. You look at the Bears game, they barely won. You look at the Packers game. You look at the Ravens game, how they got absolutely decimated on the road. The same team the Rams lost to in overtime. Jared Goff is susceptible to that. And so I think with the Rams, they're going to send some pressure. They're going to blitz him. They're going to send Ernest Jones. They're going to hope that Byron Young wins his, matchup off the edge with Taylor Decker. They're going to hope that Michael Hoyt can do something against Penei Sewell, and Aaron Donald and Kobe Turner can eat, and Bobby Brown can do his thing. And if that's the case, then it's going to be really hard. So I expect Jared Goff to have a good game, but I think it's going to be a couple possessions in this one, a couple plays that he wants back that could really decide this one. Looking at the running backs for the Lions, I think what you can expect is that they are pretty much going to do everything they can to get to 100 yards, but I don't think they both are going to go off in this one. The Rams' run defense is among the best in all of football over the last 8 games. They have been on an absolute tear. They stopped Alvin Kamara from being really a part of that game. They completely took Saquon Barkley's run game out of the game. And you've seen this. You've seen them do this all year. They've only allowed one 100-yard rusher in Christian McCaffrey. So running backs are really not doing a ton against this team. And really what I will say is that I think a lot of it is the scheme, but I do think those guys are playing at a high level. The reason I say scheme is that the Rams defense, make no mistake about it, is a pass funnel for quarterbacks. They want you to take the short pass, or they want you to throw it deep down the field because they believe that Ahkello Witherspoon, Darian Kendrick, Kobe Durant, they believe those guys can make them pay. Plus, when you have, Jordan Fuller, I don't know if he'll play or not, but when you have guys like Jordan Fuller and Russ Yeast and John Johnson and Quentin Lake, those guys can play the robber, and you can get some interceptions out of that if, Jared Goff underthrows a player. So that is something to keep in mind there, is that this is a pass funnel. So there's going to be a lot of attempts from Goff. Goff's going to throw the ball a lot. And I do think this is just the way it is with this defense. I think in a way they bait these teams into throwing and they keep them away from running the ball. But when they run the ball, they don't have success because you got Kobe Turner, you got Bobby Brown, you got Aaron Donald. It's not an easy team to run against, especially Ernest Jones, in the second level, who can come down and help you in run support, and some other guys. I mean, Jordan Fuller can help you in run support. Ahkello Witherspoon's a really good tackling corner. Darian Kendrick is pretty solid in his own right as a tackling corner. And then, of course, Quentin Lake. So, that's the thing there. So when you look at the run game, I don't know if there's going to be a run game in this one. I think they'll get their moments there. I think you'll have a few of those runs that, a guy like David Montgomery, who's a little bit bigger than most running backs, he can make guys pay. I think he's going to be able to break through the first contact or second contact, maybe have a couple of those 10-yard runs. But in reality, if you're looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, I think the best thing is to try and get him going. But if you can't, use him in the short passing attack and try to make him, go one-on-one against a corner, against a linebacker, because he is explosive. So I would expect those guys to have solid games, but I don't think either of them against this run defense are going to go off, so to speak. They're both almost 1,000-yard rushers in their own right. But I do think that the use of the short passing attack, if you don't have the run game, can simulate that. And Goff will dink and dunk when he has to. So we'll see what ends up happening. But, so far, I expect the Rams, Goff to have a good game, but the Rams to get some really key potential turnovers, potential plays, sacks, whatever. And then I think the run game, when you look at, both those guys, Gibbs and of course Montgomery, I think both of them will have a solid game, but I think they're going to be they're going to 100% have to be utilized in the passing attack if they want to win this one. Looking at the wide receivers, I think the really intriguing one here, I mean, the obvious one I think is, Jamison Williams, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, everyone knows, but Jamison Williams, it's like he's been waiting. He's been chomping at the bit. We've seen these moments in the past. This is a defense that's allowing, over the last few weeks, they're allowing the big play. And Jamison Williams is the fastest player on that team. So if you can get him over the top, that's dangerous. We've seen that. So I think that's obvious. But I think a guy I want to mention here is not Amon-Ra St. Brown, excuse me, is Donovan Peoples-Jones, who they quietly traded for at the deadline. He's somebody I really liked. Obviously, every Detroit fans know who he is because Michigan Wolverines, he was great, in college with them. So was drafted in the 6th round by the Browns, had 800 plus yards last year, kind of fell out of favor, with the new offense this year. So they traded him. And I think when you look at him, not only is he important in the receiving game with his size, but he's also important as a returner should Raymond not be able to play. Khalif Raymond got hurt. I don't know if he's going to play or not. So that could be big. So this is a guy that you have to be, you have to pay attention to, a really good returner, a guy that can go up and high point the football. So I think you can expect that he is going to be kind of an intriguing guy. Josh Reynolds is going to want to find the end zone against his former team. That's just a given. But I look at this receiver room and I think you can expect early on and often this team is going to try to funnel the ball to, guys. Well, at least the Lions are going to try to funnel the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown and just get Goff in a comfortable state. And if he doesn't have that, maybe dump it off to a Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery. Tight end, it sounds like James Mitchell is going to be the guy. Former 5th round pick out of, I believe, Virginia. Guy I really liked in the draft. I like his measurables. I like a lot about him, but dealt with injury coming into the season, his rookie year. So now here he is potentially getting a shot. I don't think Laporta is going to play. I just don't. Then you have Brock Wright potentially if he does suit up. So those two guys you have to worry about because, the Rams have had a hard time with tight ends. Obviously, it's not Laporta, but I would expect that James Mitchell will be interesting in this game. He'll have a couple big catches. I would expect Amon-Ra St. Brown to have a good game. But I also think, and I don't know if this will happen, but I think the Rams should really consider putting Ahkello Witherspoon and having him travel with Amon-Ra St. Brown and try to lock him down. He's got great speed. He's got length and the size. Amon-Ra St. Brown has size, but he doesn't have great speed. He ran like a late 4.5. Ahkello's running a 4.3 nowadays. He's 6'4". He's got crazy long limbs. So that would be an interesting matchup. And then I expect the offensive line of the Lions, as great as they are, I expect them to struggle at times. Okay. I think there are going to be moments in this game where you can take over. You could take the ball away from Jared Goff. You can put him in harm's way. So I do expect that to happen. On the Rams side, okay, or rather, let's do the Lions defense, and I'll get into the Rams. The Lions defense, what can we expect there? Well, I think Aiden Hutchinson is 100% the key guy that the Rams are going to focus on, right? I mean, that's the guy the Rams are going to focus on. That's the guy they need to know where he is at all times. And, I think when you have a guy who's had the second most pressures in the National Football League this year, only behind Micah Parsons, who leads back-to-back seasons, and this is his second season, you have a really good pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson. So that's something to keep in mind there. Aiden Hutchinson is a problem. And the Rams have gone up against guys, like a Kayvon Thibodeau, who was in that same draft class. They went up against Myles Garrett, who albeit wasn't 100%. They've gone up against guys like Boye Mafe, who coming into that game had 7 straight sacks with the Seahawks. They've gone up against Nick Bosa's of the world. They've gone up against, Chase Young, Montez Sweat. Actually, they didn't see Montez Sweat this year. But the point is, guys like that, that is a problem, right? And so I think in this one, the Rams are going to want to use Kyron Williams a lot in chipping the right side. And what we might see is that the Lions want to just go and move Hutchinson around. They might want to move him around the offensive line, defensive line. I wouldn't be surprised. So if they do that, wouldn't be surprised at all. I think that's something to keep in mind. It's definitely fair to say. And, I think when you look at that defensive line, they surprisingly let go of Isaiah Buggs. He actually just signed, I think, with the Chiefs. But Aleem McNeil, Benito Jones, Broderick Martin, and Levi Onwuzurike, these are guys that help you in the trenches. They've been pretty damn good against the run. However, the Rams have been pretty damn good against any defensive line running the football, and that shows. The Browns are great against the run. The Rams were still able to have a quality game with Kyron Williams. The Rams had over 100 yards with Kyron Williams against the Ravens defensive line, which is saying a lot. So that is something to keep in mind there. When you look in the linebacker room, they got Jack Campbell, the first-round pick. He's got great athleticism there. Then, of course, you have Alex Anzalone, who the Rams know pretty well from his days with the Saints. You got Derek Barnes. You got Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Malcolm Rodriguez, who is really good in coverage, very athletic there. The thing here in the secondary with the Lions is that they just they have a bunch of names. They should be better than they are. It actually doesn't make a lot of sense. You get Cam Sutton in off season, who was a former Steeler, really good player in his own right. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, one of the best safeties in the league when healthy. Afadu Melifonwu's really turned it on for himself there. Kirby Joseph has been really good, but a ball tracker, a guy that can take over. Tracy Walker III and Brian Branch, but for whatever reason, obviously Emmanuel Mosley got hurt, and that definitely hurts. But I don't really know why this secondary is as bad as they are. It doesn't really make sense to me. They're really struggling. And I think when you have Matthew Stafford, you can really take advantage of that. So what do I expect for the defense? Well, I expect the defense to get some pressure on Stafford. I think Hutchinson is just really, really tough. And I think he's going to have a couple sacks in this game. I really think he'll get some pressure on Stafford. They'll try some different things there. But aside from that, he's the one guy you have to worry about. John Kaminsky, Josh Paschal, and Charles Harris, I like them, but they're not Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson is like their Aaron Donald, okay? He is the guy on that defense, not just the defense line, that defense. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming back from injury, maybe he gets into the stat column with the interception or something like that. But I really think that this secondary is going to continue to do what they do, and they're going to struggle to defend the deep ball. And I think the Rams, who don't love throwing the deep ball, they don't throw it a ton. They definitely liked it a lot more in the past Sean McVay offenses, but I think this team has been so focused on rhythm and balance that really they're focusing more on the intermediate throws. And deep, but not like a deep shot, more so. And they take a few, but more so deep, like 30-yard down the field, a post or something like that, not just a straight shot. So I look at guys like Puka Nacua. We saw his speed in real time. Washington game really stood out to me. You realize, okay, this guy's really fast. You saw the 80 yards he had against the Giants. This is not somebody that you want running down the seam if you're the Lions. And I think Puka Nacua, I think Cooper Kupp with a week's rest, I think he needed it. Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson. I think all these guys are capable, okay? And I think the Rams are going to take advantage of it. So I expect the Lions to give up quite a few of those big-time plays that Stafford can throw. I expect them to give up the run with Kyron Williams. The problem that makes the Rams so hard to beat is that you can't just sell out to stop the run. Green Bay got a chance to do that when they played them before the bye. It worked, but the reason it worked is because their quarterback was Brett Rippon, okay? You have to have a good quarterback in order to take the pressure off the run game and vice versa. The Rams have the best setup that Matthew Stafford's ever had on the offensive side of the ball. He might not have the best offensive line he's ever had. He might not even have the best weapons. But Matthew Stafford has the best running back he's ever had in Kyron Williams. And that right there makes it a level playing field. Teams can't just sell out to stop the run. They're not just going to load the box. They can't because Stafford. They also aren't just going to go light box and, go super heavy in the coverage downfield against Stafford. You're going to have to play a balanced defense to try and beat this Rams team. If you lean one way or the other, the Rams are going to hit you. And we saw that with the Giants. Giants did a nice job, really aggressive defense and everything, and almost won the game, but they gave up 3 touchdowns to Kyren Williams. And he ran all over that team and probably could have had more. So that's the thing. I see this going. Goff is going to make plays. He's also going to have some big time plays, big time takeaways by the Rams. I think the Rams get 2 takeaways. I think the run game looks solid, but I don't think they do enough. And I think they're going to have to be utilized in the passing game, the running backs. I think the receivers can do some things, but I do think that aside from Amon-Ra St. Brown and a potential deep shot to Jameson Williams, I think the Rams have a chance to do a nice job against them. Tight ends, James Mitchell is going to be a situational guy. I think gets a first down or 2 in a crucial spot. The offensive line, I think, will be solid, but will be susceptible to getting beat inside. And I think that's going to be helpful for the Rams. On the defensive side of the ball, I think Aiden Hutchinson, like I said, gets 2 sacks. He gets pressure on Stafford. He does a nice job. Aside from that, I do think that they're going to struggle to stop Kyren Williams. I think they're going to struggle to stop Stafford. I think the Rams will have their way with the deep passing attack. So then on the Rams side of the ball, not going too much into it because we talked a lot about the Lions, what to expect. I think you can expect Matthew Stafford to have his way with this secondary. And if they keep him upright and Aiden Hutchinson doesn't get pressure, this is going to be a long game for the Lions. Running back, Kyren Williams. I mean, as long as he stays healthy, and I could say that about anybody, I don't see anybody stopping him because not only is he doing his job and creating yards after contact and before contact and so forth and making beautiful cuts that just don't even get noticed by just the casual fan, he's getting good run blocking up front. Avila's played every single down this year for the Rams. He's been key. Then you look at Kevin Dotson on the right side, Rob Havenstein, Alec Jackson started to play well on the left side. So this run game is good, very good. And the run blocking has been very good. And now with Sean McVay using his motions, basically turning for the time being in 11 personnel, turning Puka Nacua or DeMarcus Robinson or a Cooper Kupp or a Tutu Atwell into a fullback, that makes a world of difference. And so when you have the blocking receivers the Rams do, and you already have a really good established run blocking offensive line, now Kyren Williams, who's a really, really talented running back, has it easy. And he doesn't even need to have it easy. We've seen him not have it easy and still make plays. So I understand the Lions are good against the run. I don't think that matters in this one. The Ravens were good against the run. The Browns were good against the run. Kyren Williams just makes plays. He just makes things happen. And that's what I expect to happen there with Kyren. So I think Stafford's going to have his way. I think Kyren will have his way running the ball. I think this is one of those games where you could very well see a Cooper Kupp resurgence, which I don't even like saying because he's had multiple 100-yard games this year. But I feel like people are kind of out on Cooper Kupp now. It seems like Puka Nacua is the guy. But let's not forget, the Rams sat their most key starters. And while they probably should have sat Ahkello Witherspoon and they probably should have sat Kobe Turner, for the most part, they sat their top-notch guys. Cooper Kupp was one of those guys. So Cooper Kupp with a week off, who knows what's going to happen. But I'll say this. I expect this to be an evenly balanced passing attack where you see DeMarcus involved, you see Tyler Higbee involved if he plays, you see Davis Allen involved a little bit, get him going. You see Cooper Kupp, you see Puka Nacua, maybe even some Tutu Atwell. That's how I see this going. And by all means, if they do stop the run, it's going to be hard for the Rams, but you can still use Kyren Williams in the short passing attack. They still have Ronnie Rivers as well, who you could use in the short passing attack. So that is something to keep in mind there. But I do expect the Rams passing attack to look great, the run game to look great. On the defensive side of the ball, I think the defensive line is going to continue to do their thing up front. They're going to dominate. They're going to do really well against the run. force the Lions into just a heavy passing attack in their pass funnel, essentially. And I think the Rams are going to do a nice job of, keeping this thing. Goff is going to want to take those shots down the field. But if the Rams play more like a conservative approach and keep everything in front of them, he's not going to be able to do that. And so I do think that approach, I think the Rams defense is going to be better than people realize. And I think at the end of the day, the Rams are going to win this game 28-24. I think the Rams are the better team. I think right now they're playing better, but I think they are the better team. You can go out there and point out teams like the Ravens, the 49ers, and so forth. I think the Rams are a more talented football team than the Lions. The Lions are getting there, okay? But they're not quite there yet. And I think the Rams' experience is going to be Dan Campbell's downfall. I can already see the fourth down conversions, trying to attempt those. His aggressiveness could be his downfall. There is a concern about both kickers, to be fair. I would say more so about Maher. But I don't really worry about that because I have 28-24, meaning he hits 4 extra points, doesn't have to attempt a field goal. There's no elements because you're in a dome. So I'm feeling good about this one. If the Rams win by more or they win by less, I wouldn't be surprised. This could be, even closer game. This could be a 1-point game. But I like 28-24. I think 3 touchdowns for the Lions and a field goal, and the Rams score 4 touchdowns. I think that's what you can expect. I think the Rams are going to utilize guys like AD in different ways. It's now the playoffs. You can throw curveballs out there, deviate a little bit away from what you've already put out there on film. I expect the Lions to do the same. Expect some trick plays, expect some end arounds. But same with the Rams. We haven't seen many of that. We've only seen really Puka Nacua on those, but maybe Tutu Atwell, we get something that we saw week 3 against the Bengals. Maybe the big reason why we haven't seen a lot of Tutu Atwell is they've been saving him for the playoffs. Who knows? I don't know. But I would just say to expect the Rams win and expect them to look good doing it. And if you want to say, well, here's the deal. They're playing on the road. This is going to be, I've already seen it. This is the toughest environment they've ever played in. Well, no, it's not. Some of them, sure. But Matthew Stafford played in a Super Bowl against the Bengals. He played the NFC Championship game. Half Rams fans, half 49er fans. The NFC divisional round game. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in Tampa. This is not the toughest thing he's ever faced. And I think he's going to really handle this the right way. You don't see Stafford have too many games where coming off, a bad game, which we'll say the Giants game was bad, he plays another bad game. And you also don't see Matthew Stafford when push comes to shove and the game matters, the game's on the line. You don't normally see him falter. And this is a legacy game for him, whether he realizes it or not. They're not losing this football game. I think it'll be close. They're not losing it, though. 28-24 is my prediction. You guys can follow me on social media at JK Bogan. I appreciate you hanging out with me. This has been a lot of fun. I mean, I love talking ball, obviously. I love, getting to interact. And, I think this will be a fun game. This will be one of the best games of the week. But I do think the Rams pull off the road victory, which, again, it is a road game. But let's not forget the Rams are just as good on the road as they are at home. They had 5 wins on the road. They had 5 wins at home, making 10 wins on the season. They are a balanced football team in every meaning of the word, but I would also say that they're the hottest football team in the league because no one has won more in the last 8 games than the LA Rams. So that's going to do it. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Later, folks.